Have you ever stopped to wonder if an AI remembers things the same way you do? I mean, we usually picture AI memory like this perfect, super organized database, right? Kind of like a massive digital filing cabinet. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? What if the secret to building way smarter, more efficient AI isn't about bigger filing cabinets at all, but about embracing a little bit of the brain's natural chaos?
Okay, let's really get into this. Think about your own brain for a second. When you remember something, like your first bike ride, it's not like you just pull up a single file named bike.jpg. No, it's a flood, right? You get this whole mix of feelings and sights and sounds all connected. Now, think about how your computer saves a document. Totally different worlds. So the big question driving this research is, can we, and maybe more importantly, should we, build an AI that remembers more like we do?
And this slide right here, this gets to the very heart of it. On one side, you've got the classic computer way of doing things, the neat and tidy filing cabinet. Every single piece of information gets its own little drawer, its own separate slot. But then you've got the brain's way, this messy, beautiful, woven tapestry. Here, memories aren't stored in one place. They are the connections, the overlapping threads that are woven through the entire network. Right, so for the longest time, AI has been built on this filing cabinet model. And hey, it makes sense. It's logical, it's organized, and it works, to a point. But let's get a little more specific about what we mean when we say a slot. A slot is really just what it sounds like, a dedicated, separate spot for a piece of information. In the kind of AI models we're talking about, you can think of it as one special memory neuron that has one job, to hold one specific memory. That's it, one neuron, one memory. Clean, simple, separate. So this is the crucial point. While that slot-based approach is powerful and definitely tidy for a computer, neuroscience is pretty clear on this. Our brains just don't work that way. We don't have a single dedicated neuron for every memory we've ever had. And that difference isn't just a fun little factoid. It leads to a massive problem when we try to get AI to learn new things over and over again in the long term. Which, of course, brings us to the alternative. A new brain-inspired model. What if, instead of putting memories in single, isolated slots, we distributed them across the network? What if we could weave them into the very fabric of the system itself? This visual just says it all, doesn't it? The slot model on the left is like flipping one single, powerful light switch for one memory. Boom. Simple. But the tapestry model, that's more like a whole constellation of dimmer lights all turning on at once. A single memory isn't one point of light. It's the unique pattern created by that entire group. It's stored in the connections between all of them. So this is the million-dollar question the researchers were asking. You know, when you're constantly learning new things, day in and day out, which system actually holds up better over time? The tidy filing cabinet or the messy tapestry? All right, so when they put this to the test, the results for remembering something brand new were pretty interesting. The filing cabinet model with its dedicated slots was basically perfect. It had a tiny little edge, which, makes sense. If you just put one thing in one empty drawer, it's going to be pretty easy to find again. But here it is. This is the big reveal. When you ask the models to recall an old memory, the filing cabinet's performance completely falls off a cliff. Why? Because to store a new memory in a slot, it has to completely overwrite whatever was in there before. It's what's called catastrophic forgetting. It's a disaster. Now look at the tapestry model. Its performance goes down a little, but it degrades gracefully. Because the memories are all woven together, learning something new just slightly adjusts the whole tapestry. It doesn't completely erase a chunk of it. It is just so much more robust. So we've pretty much established that this messy, distributed approach is way, way better for long-term memory. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. What about the really complex, in-the-moment reasoning that powers the most advanced AI we have today? Like the big, large language models? This brings us to the engine behind models like GPT, something called the transformer architecture. Now, these things are incredibly powerful, but the way they handle information in real time is, from a biological standpoint, well, it's completely bonkers. Just think about how a transformer reads a simple sentence. For every single word, it creates and actively maintains a memory slot. It holds on to the, and then quick, and then brown, and potentially thousands of other words all at the same time, keeping them all in this active, energy-burning state. It's like trying to keep thousands of filing cabinet drawers wide open at once. It's just wildly inefficient, and it is not at all how your brain processes language.
And this is where the paper just drops a bombshell. It points out that storing all that information in the connection weights, the threads of the tapestry, would be way more efficient. And it makes total sense, because the brain has literally thousands, even tens of thousands of times more connections than it has neurons. That's where the real storage space is.
So this led the researchers to this incredible question. Is it possible? Can we actually redesign the super powerful transformer architecture to get rid of all those energy-hungry memory slots and instead have it store temporary information in the connections themselves, just like the brain seems to do? The goal became to create a transformer that learns by weaving context into its very structure on the fly, instead of just stacking up thousands and thousands of active memory slots. And to pull this off, they used this really clever concept called fast weights. So what in the world are fast weights? Well, imagine you could just temporarily make the connections between neurons stronger or weaker, just for a few moments, to hold on to a piece of information. So instead of opening a brand new drawer in that filing cabinet, you're just temporarily reweaving a tiny little patch of the tapestry. It's a way for the network to hold context by briefly changing its own wiring.
So using this idea, they built a brand new type of transformer. We'll call it the MHN transformer. It's more biologically plausible, it should be more efficient, but the ultimate test is always performance. Could this brain-inspired model actually solve a complex language task as well as the industry-standard slot-based version? The pressure was on.
And the result is pretty stunning. On a really difficult language task that requires remembering context over time, the new brain-like MHN transformer got a perfect score, 100% accuracy. It completely matched the performance of the original. This is huge. It proves you don't need that biologically impossible filing cabinet to get state-of-the-art results. But wait, it gets even better. Not only did the new model work perfectly, the researchers found that in some situations, it could actually learn the task faster than the baseline transformer. I mean, think about that for a second. The more biologically realistic model wasn't just as good, it was actually more efficient at learning.
So let's zoom out. What does all this actually mean for the future of AI? Why does it matter if we can build an AI that thinks just a little bit more like a human brain? Well, it really boils down to two huge ideas that came out of this work. First, that a distributed, tapestry-style memory is way, way better at holding onto old information as it learns new things. And second, that using fast weights lets us build incredibly powerful AI like transformers without having to rely on those inefficient, totally unbrain-like memory slots. And when you put those two ideas together, they're not just small improvements. They represent fundamental steps toward a whole new kind of AI. One that's more energy efficient, more robust against forgetting, and ultimately much more aligned with the incredible blueprint for intelligence that evolution has already figured out. It really leaves you with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? Maybe the future of AI isn't just about building bigger and bigger hardware. Maybe it's about looking more closely at the 3-pound computer that we all have inside our skulls. The brain is the most efficient learning machine on the planet. What other secrets is it just waiting to teach us?